So on this week's episode of The Quad, we're going to be analyzing what's going on all around us. Ceasefire with Lebanon? Is there a ceasefire? Syria? What on earth is going on over there? And will this week be the week when we have a hostage deal? And as usual, unfortunately, many scumbags, but also many wonderful heroes. Only on JNS, only on The Quad. Welcome back, everybody, on The Quad. And I have missed you. I haven't been here, but my incredible co-hosts have been holding the fort so well. But it's good to be back. And today, with me in the show, co-host Shoshanna Keats Jaskoll, who is the founder of Chokhmat Nashim, elevating Orthodox women's voices and fighting discrimination, and return co-host, my good friend Avi Meir, previous chief editor of the Jerusalem Post, and today an incredible commentator all around the world. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for being here.
Now, there's so much going on. I just don't know where to start. So let's just
break
it down.
Jump right in.
We have a ceasefire with Lebanon, which as of yesterday is no longer a ceasefire because they're trying their luck. Right. That's the way I see it. They're trying their luck. See how far they can push us. Sure. See if this is Israel pre-October 7th or this is Israel lost their patience.
No patience.
Which we don't have. We attack them and big time.
I feel like this ceasefire with Hezbollah, which is a long time coming and very, very necessary, is a new day. I think Israel has laid down the line and said, you're not
crossing this.
You are not coming back you're not coming back south of the Litani. You are going to stay up there. And if you don't, we will attack. No question.
Well, it's also what the defense minister said, right? Yisrael Katz said, don't even think twice. If there are violations, just hit back.
Yes. Right.
And we've seen that happening. The Americans seem to think that the ceasefire is going to hold regardless of what's happening.
Are they living in cuckoo land? Or is this like the last thing? It's almost like we're in a kindergarten. It's like, okay, last punch. No, my last punch. It's ridiculous.
I mean, that often does happen with these ceasefires. There's like a trickle of incidents in the immediate aftermath. The question, of course, is what will happen in the weeks, months, and obviously years ahead. Will we have another 18 years like we did after 2006, where Hezbollah will just ignore everything? The UN peacekeeping force will enable them to rearm. And of course, we ultimately will pay the price.
We tolerate it.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. We tolerate it, and that's what happened to us in Gaza. And that's what's happened to us before. But I do think, like Shoshanna says, it is a new day. And I think that we have to make sure that the red line that we set is not
that we hold it also. Right? There's nothing worse than setting a line and then ignoring it when someone crosses over. We can't do that anymore. Like we have to behave differently.
And we also have to bear in mind that this is supposed to be a 60-day ceasefire, which is very, very purposefully going to slide us into the Trump administration, which really is giving us a lot more leeway to do what we need to do than what we've had right now, which is holding us back constantly, slow rolling aid, armaments, etc.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see, they just yesterday announced, or the other day announced, that Trump's new Middle East envoy is going to be his Machatan, his
Lebanese son-in-law.
Most Jewish thing ever.
His son-in-law's father.
Well, he had the other son-in-law, the last
exactly. Masad Boulos, who is Lebanese himself, and apparently has ties to Hezbollah. There are rumors that he tried to run for parliament in Lebanon. He denies that.
Under the Hezbollah party?
No, in a Christian party that's somehow associated with Hezbollah. There's all sorts of complicated political dynamics there. Whether that will impact Trump's approach to the ceasefire and to what happens over that border, this remains to be seen.
Well, will have to be seen, but he's really got a cabinet full of very, very pro-Israel people.
Right.
So I don't see how one advisor, especially if he's a Christian in Lebanon, honestly, he should be for this ceasefire. He should be for, diminishing the influence of Hezbollah. I don't think you can get rid of them, but at least diminish their influence.
100%.
It's the best thing that could happen, not only for Israel, but also for the Lebanese people themselves.
Lebanon's a mess.
Hezbollah
is some kind of calm that would marginalize Hezbollah. I mean, that would only be great for everyone.
Yeah. Well, like somebody said to me this morning, somebody who worked in the last Trump administration, you can't solve Lebanon, you can only manage it. Which brings us over to Syria. I mean, who knew that in the middle of all this mess that has been basically the trickle effect of the massacre of October 7th, everything else has played out, that Syria is now going to get their own rebellion. It seems obvious because they're weak. Why are they weak? Because Iran is weaker.
Right.
And so their influence is weak because Russia is out of the picture. Russia was a big sponsor of Assad. They're out of the picture. They're busy in their own war. And everything that goes on there is so sick. They are held up by a poisonous, literally poisonous drug industry.
Yep.
That's the only thing keeping the country afloat. So what's going to happen with Syria? Because when you look at who's trying to create this insurgency or change, one's worse than the other.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's no good guy here.
Well,
Right? There's nobody to root for.
maybe the
Like,
Kurdish
awful.
democratic forces.
There's only the Kurds. Yeah, okay, except that we see what happens when the Islamists come in and they take a truck full of girls and they stole a truck full of girls. It's so horrible to talk about, but they took them and this is what jihadis do.
Right.
They just bring misery, pain, suffering,
Yes,
and evil wherever they go.
and destroy every single society they get their hands on. But
And
the
it's
world,
all against.
but the world, of course, doesn't see that because,
No.
of course, they.
Yeah, I mean, Menachem Begin, I think it was in the 80s during the Iran-Iraq War, said he wished both sides great luck
Right.
in
No, he said
killing one another.
wishes they both win.
Right. Basically, right, we wish them a great success. And the truth is, like, I kind of feel the same way about this situation. Like, let them keep killing each other and, leave us alone. Of course, there are civilians who are caught in the middle, and that is a terrible, terrible unfolding tragedy, as it has been for years now. The number, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of civilians who've been killed in the Syrian civil war is unfathomable.
Not to mention the refugee problem
And
that
the
they've
refugee
created
problem
in
and so
Europe.
on.
Yeah.
And of course, then there's also the question of, who is going to be the sovereign? Should Assad fall, will these Islamists then take control of Syria and pose perhaps even a greater threat or an even more extreme threat on our border? It's a scary time.
There are some good guys, aren't they? Maybe they're not the rebels, but there's like like I said, the
Syrian
democratic.
Well, the Kurds for sure. The Kurds need their own damn country. I'll tell you that. The Kurds need a
Right,
country.
but the likelihood of their taking over Syria.
No, that's not going to happen.
No,
Yeah.
it's minimal, but they do have some forces that have been fighting strong.
Yeah.
And I think they're called a Democratic Party, so maybe there's
That was nice.
hope there. But it just seems so hopeless, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you look around,
Very upsetting.
everybody's focused here, but when you just zoom out a little.
But that's what happens when you have a power vacuum, right? That's what happens when those who are propping up the leader are all of a sudden distracted and then all of the bad guys, all of those people come in. And that's really our problem also with Gaza. What the hell is going to happen when we leave Gaza? We cannot leave Gaza without a plan. And right now, I mean, I hope that Netanyahu has a real plan because I don't know what's happening and we cannot just walk away.
Well, they're saying, but I'm not sure this is true, that within the hostage negotiations that are happening, I'm praying that they're happening so that these families can have their loved ones home, whoever's alive, and not at least bury their dead. But they're saying that there's two negotiating teams. One is doing the hostages, and the other one is talking about the day after, with Egypt and Qatar, of course, who is still in the picture. And so I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's just trying to calm everyone. I think you're 100% right. When there's a power vacuum, you have chaos. But the power vacuum during the Obama administration was Obama leaving the region to Russia, setting a red line.
And across it 100%.
That he then ignored, emboldening Iran, sending the money. The Biden administration is still sending cash to Iran every single month. I mean, how are people okay with this? And how are people defending that strategy? Okay, you don't like Trump, I get it. You love Biden, you're a lifelong Democrat, I get it. How can you defend an administration policy for funding the Islamic Republic of Iran that is causing so much chaos and pain?
I think one of the challenges, though, with the ecosystem surrounding Trump is that there are actually quite a lot of folks in his orbit who are isolationists, who do not want the U.S. to be involved anywhere in the world, who want to sort of...
That many.
They do exist, and thankfully, some might say, not many of them have been appointed to positions of significance in the incoming administration, but they are still out there, and he may feel the need to appease some of them, and he has said very openly. In fact, I think he said it in his victory speech, that he is going to end wars. He's not going to start them.
Yes.
So we do see some kind of a potential retreat happening. The question is, how does that affect this region and other parts of the world? So we'll see.
Well, it's a very American concept of NIMBY, which is not in my backyard,
Right.
Yes.
right? And that is so American that it goes from everything from like, oh, of course we should recycle, of course we should this, but not in my backyard, like not here, I don't want to see the mess. And I think that's also very American in general. Like Americans don't ever have to worry about a territorial war. They don't know what it means. Their borders aren't threatened.
But it's so far from...
That's what I'm saying. There's a concept that can't get it. And so the average American really has no idea what freedom really costs.
Yeah.
and how hard that is and how threatened it is. And that's why, so it's like, just give them the money because then it's quiet in my backyard.
Yeah.
That's, just to answer your question, why people do that, it's because they just want checkout. They just want quiet. And they don't look at what's going on with someone else's yard.
That's kind of what happened in Gaza all these years.
Exactly. That's exactly
we
what
also
throwing
did cash.
suitcases of cash
Correct.
into Gaza. Like, it'll keep them quiet. All we need is to give them the workers' permits to come in and
Protection
ensure
money.
their protection money.
Underestimating what they want, underestimating how motivated they are, and underestimating how far they're willing to get it.
Yeah.
I think that's a
because
big
when you're a
problem.
crazy extremist ideologue, cash is not going to do it for you.
Correct.
Right.
You have much bigger, much deeper, much uglier aims.
Right.
Right.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah. And this whole region. And people need to understand that.
It's really crazy. And I mean, we're just waiting to see what the policy change is going to be.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how things have actually changed just by Trump getting elected.
It's true.
Iran's already announced an order.
It's undeniable to see already the changes that are happening. And as someone who does not love Trump, I can't deny that.
No, but again, I think this is a concept that people are to understand that whether they like it or not, America is the biggest superpower, if not the only superpower in the world. And America not being engaged is only, as you say, letting bad actors get
It's like
engaged.
the teacher turning her back in the recess in the yard,
Exactly.
And then eventually America has to get engaged because then they are threatened. So the moral of the story has to be that the whole America leading from behind Obama doctrine was ridiculous,
Didn't work.
was garbage. It didn't work, and we're still suffering the consequences of that very defeatist strategy, I would say.
Well, I mean, a vacuum will inevitably be filled. So whether it's filled by bad local or regional actors or by other global powers like China or Russia, no good can come of that. So rightly or wrongly, the U.S. does have a significant role to play in ensuring regional stability.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and let's hope we see a more engaged. Let's hope the isolationists lose, because in the end, it does come into your backyard, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately what history has taught us.
Time again.
We just have to learn. We have to be willing to learn.
Well, we have to know our history first. Whereas
True.
people,
You have to know history, and then you
you
will
have
learn
to
about
know
it.
history. You have to learn from history, and unfortunately, we seem to be very bad at that.
The whole world.
Maybe they'll learn something from this show. Now, this week, and I say this every week, many, many, many scumbags. This is Scumbags of the Week. I just feel that it just gets piling up. I don't know how else to describe it. It's endless. You turn one corner here, there's another 100 scumbags there.
All the scumbags.
All the scumbags. Shoshana, let's start with you. And I know this is going to hurt you, this one, because
It's very, very
it's a
difficult.
tough one for you. And for all of us.
For all of us, but there's something about seeing, and I'm sure we have the clip, but there's something about seeing, especially after October 7th, after we saw Naama Levy, I believe it was, who was taken in and out of a Jeep on October 7th. Something about seeing girls being huddled in Jeeps by men screaming in Arabic, telling them, pick their head up, put their head down, do this, do that, and knowing that they're probably never going to see their families again, and that they're going to be tortured and sold and raped. But there's a group of Kurdish women who were kidnapped by Syrian Islamic rebels in Aleppo. And it is always the women and girls who are the victims of men's wars. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true.
Yeah.
And my scumbags are those who think that they can do what they want with women, that women's bodies are yours to control and yours to take at will. And I hope that you get the burning hell forever that you deserve, and that everyone learns that women and girls are not playthings. We are human beings who cannot be acted upon at your whim. And I only pray that somehow these girls are saved. I don't know how, but I hold out hope that they can be saved. If we just saved a young Yazidi girl from Gaza after 11 years of being held as a slave. So I really hope these girls come home soon, and that we don't see this anymore, that the good forces of this world wake up and understand that the Islamic jihad that is running rampant is all of our enemies, and we need to take care of the democratic forces and the forces of good in this world.
Amen, sister. Couldn't have said it better.
It's so painful.
It's so painful.
It's devastating. 2024, and we have sex slaves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell?
And it happens everywhere. Boko Haram also targets girls. I mean, it's horrific that we see this happening all over the world.
But this is Muslims on Muslims.
Well, I think these are Kurdish girls particularly.
Yes, but it happens everywhere.
Yes, it does.
Not to mention the fact that in Gaza, people don't know this. I mean, we know the story of the Yazidi girl. 12-year-old girls are married off to 30-year-old Hamasniks all the time.
Disgusting.
It makes me sick. It's institutionalized pedophilia. That's what goes on in
I
these.
think in Iran, the legal age for marriage is either 12 or 13.
Yeah.
In the Iranian...
They want to bring it down.
Oh, God.
No, there was a whole thing. They want to bring down the age of consent.
Because of the 13-year-old old maids? Is that like what?
Yes, yeah, you're past it apparently.
I just wish I don't know old and wake up. I don't understand.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand. The feminists for the Islamists. Oh, shame on you. History will judge you very harshly, my nun sisters. Avi, scumbags.
So my scumbag of the week is the Commissioner General of UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, who has just been a constant force for no good over the course of this war.
Yeah.
And this week came out with a statement in which he decried an incident in which quite a large number of aid trucks were taken over by certain elements in Gaza. Now, he referred to them as armed gangs.
Armed gangs.
He wouldn't refer to them as Palestinian armed gangs, which of course we know they are. And he also, of course, wouldn't mention that it's Hamas that benefits largely from this seizure of aid, and that Hamas has time and again, in fact, stolen aid. And of course, he took the time to blame. Who do you blame?
Israel.
Of course, he blames Israel.
Blame the
It's
Jews.
Israel's fault, and it's Israel's responsibility.
Why is it our fault?
Because it's our job as the occupying power, of course, to ensure the safety and protection of aid trucks going into Gaza. Now, someone commented, which is it that you want? Do you want us not there?
Right.
Or you want us there?
It's controlling everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we controlling things? Are we not controlling things? We're not allowed to be in Gaza, but we're supposed to be in Gaza to protect these aid trucks. He will stop at nothing to blame Israel. He is himself a rather toxic individual who heads an incredibly toxic organization that, of course, should no longer exist.
Yeah.
And he absolutely merits the designation of scumbag of the week.
Agreed.
100%. Let me ask you a question, because I've been watching these UNRWA press conferences recently, and I'm beginning to feel that the journalists, whoever's got any integrity left, are actually asking good questions that they can't answer. Is it just my feeling, my wishful thinking? Or are people waking up a little bit? Well, he's not going to say anything about Hamas because they're all his employees, let's be honest.
That's true. Right. Exactly. Right. He can say his own employees are stealing the aid. I mean, look, I think there are some organizations and individuals out there. Hillel Neuer from UN Watch is one guy
who has been at their case.
But he has been an organization for the past few months in particular. He has been incredible about exposing the pernicious ties of UNRWA to terrorist organizations.
Yes.
How the heads of UNRWA over the years have said, we are Hamas, and Hamas is having ridiculous things like this.
They've said it. They're not even ashamed.
They're open about it, right? Of course, the number of UNRWA employees who've been implicated in October 7th and the events that have transpired since, it is truly stunning this organization still exists. And so I think being funded, right, by all of us. Any Western citizen who pays taxes to their government is directly funding UNRWA, because UNRWA is, of course, an organization of the United Nations. The United Nations is heavily funded by Western countries, including the United States, to the tune of billions of dollars a year. And that goes directly to UNRWA. It is unfathomable.
And UNRWA goes to terrorists.
And by the way, money is fungible, right? So even when these governments have said we're suspending funding to UNRWA, they just find it in other ways. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And that brings me to my scumbag of the week, who I had the distinct displeasure of sitting with at a Piers Morgan interview, debate.
I can't believe you sat there like that. You were amazing.
I didn't, whatever. It was a rough experience, I've got to tell you.
If we were indiscriminately attacking, why are we asking people to get out of the way? Why are we creating safe zones? All of what he's saying,
bring you in, Norman.
You have to understand where Norman Finkelstein is in his head, okay? First of all, he doesn't believe in the existence of the State of Israel. So it's very difficult arguing with somebody that doesn't believe you should exist at all. Secondly, as a Jew, he's got what as a Jew, let me finish my point and then you can interrupt.
Talk about my head.
As a Jew.
Talk about your head.
As a Jew, Norman Finkelstein has got what I describe as the abused wife syndrome. The abused wife that stays with her abusive husband has to justify her staying in three ways. One is saying, it's not all that bad. which is what he says
How
about
long will this
anti-Semitism.
monologue go
The
on?
second is saying, well, they didn't mean it. Anti-Semitism, they didn't really mean to target Jews. And the third way, which is he's actively engaging, is to saying, it's our fault. It's my fault. The wife that says, I
All right, I'll
provoked
come
him.
to Norman to
I
respond to that.
provoked him.
Before I come,
And
okay.
this is the abusive
You've made your point and he will respond.
that he is in.
Okay.
The Israeli Jew is the liberated Jew
Okay.
that has left the abusive husband.
This terrible human being. He's a mediocre academic, like many of these are, who has found his moment in the sun by being hate of his own people. The only reason people invite him anywhere is because he is the Jew who really says horrible things and villainizes and demonizes other Jews.
It's the man bites dog situation.
100%. And that's the only reason why this very mediocre guy, but I want to remind everyone, he wrote a book, his first, I think, book that made any noise is called The Holocaust Industry. And in that book, essentially, and this was like 20, 30 years ago, he decried all of the compensation organizations for Holocaust victims as making a buck and basically weaponizing anti-Semitism for their own pernicious gains.
Right.
That's his seminal first book. Of course, there's always ways that you can find to hate on Israel. Again, I repeat, he's a mediocre academic who would never have seen the light of day of tenure. I think actually tenure was removed from him. Dershowitz and him have had many incidences where Dershowitz tried to cancel his tenure. I mean, this goes back a long way. But now he's having his moment in the sun because of October 7th. Of October 7th, he said that his heart warms when he saw the rebellion of the poor people in Gaza who were under a concentration camp. So I said to him, well, I never saw a concentration camp, A, with 3 walls, and B, with a
Luxury
country club, with a country club. I mean,
Shopping malls.
he's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. But the worst thing is that he's been given so much oxygen. But it was just, he was sitting next to me. He was sweating the whole time. He speaks extremely slowly.
And that's torture in and of itself.
Scumbag of the week. Could be scumbag of the year. Norman Pig Sweat Finkelstein. Norman Pig Sweat Finkelstein, who was on with Fleur on Piers Morgan. I don't know why Piers or anybody would have that dog, that old dog, that sweaty pig, Norman Finkelstein, on their show, that self-hating con artist on their show. But he's the scumbag of the week. Norman Finkelstein. Maybe your parents didn't teach you. You don't put your fingers up. You don't raise a hand to a woman, especially a Jewish woman, you sweaty pig. You sweaty pig. You are the scumbag of the week, possibly the scumbag of the year, but we need to crunch the numbers. You scumbag Norman Finkelstein.
And the worst thing is that Piers Morgan, who's my secondary scumbag, did not interrupt him.
That was,
Let him monologue for 10 minutes because you have to put the guy, to listen to him, you have to put him on 1.5, because you can't. It's just,
I would just be pushing buttons when I was sitting next to the guy.
but then, okay, he's had his say. All right, I'm there for a debate. I'm a big girl. I can handle it.
You are very
But then when I start to speak, they both interrupt. And the conclusion of that is, because he doesn't interrupt Douglas Murray, he doesn't interrupt Mossab Hussein, he interrupts me.
Interesting.
I happen to be a woman. What's the common denominator here? And so, look, I'm happy I did it because if it's not me, at least it's me fighting back.
They got it.
No, yeah.
He dropped out of many debates. He doesn't want to debate Mossab. He probably doesn't want to debate Douglas Murray. And when I said to him, why won't you debate Mossab? He said to me, well, I don't debate psychopaths. I made an exception for you.
Whoa.
You should consider that a high compliment. If Norman Finkelstein thinks that you're a psychopath, you're doing something wrong.
If that's what I'm saying. If a known psychopath who has made his career from psychopathy calls me a psychopath, maybe I'm doing something correctly. So Norman Finkelstein, it was not a pleasure to meet you, and you are my scumbag of the week. Okay. Now it's better? Yes, I got that out. I obviously needed.
Good.
I needed this therapy cheaper than therapy.
Cathartic.
Okay. So now we always want to bring some light into this world and find those incredible people that give us hope.
Yes.
That help us hang on to good things. And that's our heroes of the week. So Avi, let's start with you. Who's your hero this week?
Well, Fleur, this is challenging for me to say because I have had any number of criticisms of this individual over the years, including in recent months. But I have to say that my hero of the week is none other than President-elect Donald Trump.
Well, I know that was hard for you.
It was challenging for me, who just earlier yesterday issued this statement saying that if those who are holding the hostages under inhumane and violent conditions over the past year and whatever it's been 2 months, don't release them by the time he's inaugurated, there will be all hell to pay. And he will rain the greatest punishment that America has ever seen upon them.
In the history of America.
In the history of America. And I have to say, that is extremely strong rhetoric coming from a president-elect.
Yeah.
And, I posed the question about what it is that he thinks that he can do that hasn't already been done, and why is it that it hasn't already been done, which I think is an interesting question of itself. But the fact that he's even making that statement and using that kind of powerful, assertive rhetoric, to my mind, is extremely significant. The fact he's doing this even before he's entered office, and he's saying, you are on notice.
Yeah.
If you don't deliver these hostages by the time I am inaugurated as president, I'm going to come after you. I think that is extremely significant, and it certainly merits his heroism.
Well, I completely agree. And there's almost like a Reagan moment here, because Reagan also, I think just before he came in, the Iranians were holding American hostages. And he said, this is not going to fly when I'm the president. And they released them.
Right.
Because that's the only way you can deal with bullies is by pushing.
I agree. And a friend of mine actually said to me, she said, I'm not a Trump fan, but reading that just put me into tears because someone's sticking up for us and someone is publicly speaking up for us and defending us. And she said it just brought tears to my eyes and made me realize how desperate we are for people to hear us, to see us, and to advocate for us.
And also for him, of everything else that's going on, for him to prioritize
It's
it.
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
On the day that, unfortunately, we understood that poor boy, Omer Nutra, was killed on October 7th, and his parents, who have been amazing, they've been heroes.
They have been heroes.
Going out there, advocating for his release, and to find out that he was killed on that day. And that, it was the only thing that gave me a little bit of nechama, gave me a little bit of that he hadn't suffered. Solace yesterday. A, that he hadn't suffered, even though his parents, of course, went through psychological talk. But B, that Trump on that day said, enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. So great hero, Avi. I think this crowd is going to love it.
Credit where it's due.
Right. Yeah. See, this is the good thing about this show and about the people that we talk. We are moderate people that can see good and bad, even from the different places that we may not normally agree with. And I think
it's so important.
Very important, because the world is becoming so
polarized. Totally.
Yeah, we need
complexity is not a bad thing.
It's always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
Shoshanna, who are your heroes?
Well, Fleur, you.
Oh, God.
Well, stop. Yes. And other co-host Emily, who's not here with us, are my heroines of the week, because you, and as women, it's super hard to go out there and put ourselves out there because we are so picked apart, right? And you're just like, it's my hair case, my makeup. Like, what comes out of our mouths is almost like the third thing we think about when we're going on television, because like the last thing I need is for like my hair to be like this, and that's all anyone's going to talk about, which is annoying, but true. And you and Emily just go out there and tell the truth. And not because it's cool since October 7th, sorry to say, but a lot of people have joined this bandwagon, and I'm like, no! But not because I don't want more people in the bandwagon, but because some of the people are like, what the hell's going on? But you and Emily have been consistent in talking truth and speaking truth and bringing that truth to the masses. And it's not easy. It's really not easy, aside from being interrupted in Piers Morgan and from having to face Norm Finkelstein. But really, the disgusting comments you get don't deter you, don't deter Emily. And I am so pleased and proud and honored to be a co-host with you, to be a friend, first of all, but second of all, a co-host. And just so proud of you guys. And you guys are my heroines
and of course, the context of this comment is the...
I didn't even say it. Did I say it yesterday?
Which what?
Congratulations for getting the Bonnet Sion Award.
It's a beautiful ceremony.
I am so pleased, and it's thank you very much. What? I'm just going to praise you for an hour and a half and not mention bye. They won a beautiful award.
It was a beautiful
for Hasbara, and we love you.
Thank you. And I was very honored. Some of the people who won that award, I mean, I was like, why am I here? People who built clinics and hospitals and emergency doctors. And it was really incredible to be amongst the people that we were honored, both myself
Short
and
sell yourself.
Okay.
You get up at 5, you go to sleep at 3, you get on all the interviews, you tell our story, and you are tireless, and you do it in 3 languages.
It's remarkable.
Well, it was wonderful getting that prize, and thank you so much for making us a hero. I really wasn't fishing for a compliment or for a hero. So my heroes actually are also from our advocacy community. So I was in London last week, and that's where I did the Peers show. But at the same time, as I was there that same week, the Oxford Union, which is supposed to be the bastion of intellectual debate, really the bastion where you've had Bibi, where you've had top world leaders and debating, you've had sharp minds like Ben Shapiro, properly debating. They decided to run a motion. That's how they do it. They have a motion, and then you have to vote in favor or against the motion. The motion was, Israel is a genocidal apartheid regime. So there was a debate.
What do you mean emotion? Like within the
motion?
They pose the statement, and then the side
who
argue in
votes on
favor
it?
against,
Oh, I
and
see.
then
And then
the
the
audience.
audience.
part of the debate. Okay.
Thank you, Avi. Obviously, to just organize.
Clarifying.
Obviously, to clarify. our
I'm the
thoughts.
Rashi. I'm the commentary on what Fleur and Shoshanna are saying.
Avi's Rashi. I love that. So basically, that was the context, and the motion for debate was that. So it was already like almost like a foregone conclusion, right?
Framing of it was just
The frame was repulsive, and there was a debate. Do we rise to the challenge of even dignifying this motion? So a bunch of good people, our friends, decided to. It was 4 against 4. Decided to rise to the occasion. Natasha Hausdorff, our friend who's been on the show, Mossab Hassan Youssef, who has done tireless work in explaining what Hamas is to the world, and nobody has more credibility than him. Yosef Haddad, who is incredible and does so much work on campuses as well, and of course is our dear Emily's partner. And my good friend who was also on the show, Jonathan Sassadoti, who is a commentator, very dignified journalist,
good guy,
wonderful guy, calm guy. And the 4 of them were the team for our side. So what happens? They get there. I mean, the whole organization of it was so lacking. They didn't want Mossab. They did everything in their power so that Mossab wouldn't be invited. Norman Finkelstein dropped out. He claims it was because of Benny Morris not being on the other side, but it's not true. It was because he didn't want to debate Mossab, because Mossab...
So who was on the scumbag side?
So it was Mohammed Al-Kurd, the guy from East Jerusalem, who I've renamed Mohammed Al-Turd. I'm saying that. Anyway, and a couple of the other usual suspects, and one Oxford Union member. Now, the rules of the game were that the audience can only be Oxford Union members.
Right.
But they didn't give the Jewish kids a chance to organize themselves. They invited all of their friends. They stacked the place with haters, and essentially, like I said, it was a foregone conclusion. Because the new head of the Oxford Union is this Arab English guy who is now playing rampant with the Oxford Union, zero neutrality. They get to the debate.
It's a shame.
The security, they have to raise money for security because the security needed to protect these 4 heroes is unprecedented. It means they would have gotten lynched without security. Oxford, ladies and gentlemen, the bastion of intellect of the world. They would have been lynched without security. So they have all the security. They go in there. Jonathan, the brave soul, starts the debate. It's, you counter, there's rules. Every time he mentions anti-Semitism, there's jeering in the crowd.
Wow.
There's jeering and clapping so that nobody will hear him. But he does his dignified thing. Then I think it was Yosef. Yosef ends up getting kicked out. Then Mossad.
So that was intentional, wasn't it?
Probably.
Right. I mean, like,
Mossad likes getting kicked out.
I have to see this video.
But no, it hasn't been properly out. Then Mossad does a very clever thing. Mossad, don't underestimate him. The guy is super, super clever. People think he's a little bit like off the rails, but he's a very clever guy. So he did something which made him win the debate without winning the debate. He asked the audience whether if they knew that October 7th was happening, who would have reported it to the authorities?
Right.
80 or 90% or something like that?
It's an insane number, yeah.
Was it 80%?
A large majority.
A large majority says they wouldn't have.
No.
So in that moment,
Unbelievable.
what Mossad proved was who was in the audience.
Yeah.
A bunch of anti-Semitic, genocidal haters, terrorist sympathizers, Hamas sympathizers, people cheering for Hamas. So he proved the point. And of course, Natasha came with her incredible legal response. She's really incomparable in that. And by the time it ended, 75%, of course, voted in favor of the motion, which wasn't a bad number when you
Considering
who was in that room.
But to be there, Emily was there sitting in the audience, and she told me that essentially she's never seen, and she's been places, never seen such unbridled hatred
I don't know
and disrespect is what she saw.
At Oxford, of all places.
Now, if this is what's happening in the bastion of academia and intellect, honestly, academia
We're finished.
is gone.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not finished because academia is not everything. It's not the whole story. But if that is what's happening, that they need security,
all of these places.
that they're all admitting, not just terrorist sympathizers, admitting to being terrorist sympathizers. In other words, they're proud of it. Le'an higanu, as we say in Hebrew, where have we come to?
Shocking.
Let me tell you where we've come to.
Let me tell you.
In one of the videos of my debate with Finkelstein on Piers Morgan, I have now somebody writing to me Hitler quotes on the comments of my X account. And my question is this. Does this person think it's a good look? And if he does, and it is a good look, then all you're doing, haters, is just making us so, how do I put it, so happy and proud and confident that the fact that we have a Jewish state is really the only thing
It's the only answer.
protecting us. Is the only answer. You haters have proven to us how much this state is necessary.
Absolutely.
And given us the gratitude that maybe we don't have all the time about the state that we live in. So you are actually confirmed that this state is necessary and that we're not going anywhere. So thank you for that.
100%.
And with that, we complete our wonderful podcast for this week. And we complete with a prayer, as we do in every week, that maybe this is a week when we're going to get our hostages home.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
Thank you for watching.